Welcome to On Air with Kash. Today I'm excited to have a talented guest who's made a name for himself as a producer, writer, and actor. He's worked on some incredible projects including Murder at Hollow Creek, Hellfire, and the upcoming Cowboy Junkies. He's also collaborated with my good friends Isabella and Elizabeth Blake Thomas on the feature film Hunt Club. Please welcome Keli Price.
Thanks so much for having me, Cash.
Keli, it is so good to have you on the show. I know we were just talking about, we both kind of came up around the same time. We've both worked with so many mutual friends and colleagues in the industry, and I feel like our worlds have crisscrossed like at award shows. And I know I was definitely at the Hunt Club premiere, so I feel like, sometimes you're on the red carpet and you're getting pushed in these directions, and we
Yeah.
have we have quick hellos and everything, but it's really good to sit down and have a conversation with you. I really admire your work and your career.
Thank you so much, Cash. And vice versa. I've been following your podcast for a bit now, and I saw your interview with my good friend Isabella Blake Thomas, who's fantastic, by the way. And that interview was great, and so I'm happy to be here.
You were, do I say child actor? I mean, I'm part of the club too. But no, you had some success on Nickelodeon with not only
Yeah.
with acting, but your musical career as well.
I did, yeah. I
The
started
Naked
out
Brothers
on
band, right? You were Bobby Love.
Correct. Yeah, I was Bobby Love on the Naked Brothers band. I was Chris Abeley in the Clique. And yeah, man, I absolutely loved being on the Naked Brothers band. Nat Wolff and Alex Wolff were great. Really liked Polly Draper, who directed the show, and had a great time on it. Like you said, got to play some music on the show and be the lead singer of this band called the LA Surfers. Um, which my character was a fake British rocker. So he was a guy that was just trying to get a larger fan base. So he would put on this fake British accent. So he'd put on this British accent and to try to get the ladies and get more fans and whatever. But it turns out at the end that he's just like this dude from San Diego. So it was fun to play. It was definitely a lot of fun. And then The Click was a movie that Warner Brothers was involved in and distributed, and it was the same team from like Gossip Girl and all those CW shows. It was cool. It was a great experience. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that was my early career, kind of working on these projects, as a kid, pretty much as a kid. And my mom would come to the set, or my dad would come with me because I would need a parent on set with me at the time. It was great. I remember my brother came out as well to Rhode Island where we shot The Click, and some of our like really fond memories of growing up were like on these sets or on these locations with my family, and just remembering like swimming in the pool at the hotel, or just going around Newport, Rhode Island together, and really bonding as brothers, and with my brother and with my parents. And I also had some friends come out, so yeah, all fond memories.
That's amazing. I know, and I remember that time too. I mean, even because I think I'm a little older than you, but I mean, I remember those early. My thing was is I was auditioning and they wanted to book me, but I was underage. So I mean, like there was Princess Diaries,
Right.
so many. Oh yeah, so there were like all these opportunities, but then I kind of look at it where because that's even because I was always performing as a kid, but then I started getting behind the scenes a bit more. My dad was in music publishing, so I was a videographer for some bands that were up and coming at the time. But I was always on set, and then when I was 17, I was like doing a secret deodorant commercial. So I know what that whole thing's like. Oh, and I mean, one of my first things, my mom was working on Naked Gun 3, and I'm like, you can see my spiky mullet in the background because they cut the scene. It's like a part of history when you think about it. It was like we're at the premiere, and then OJ's like a superstar, and then 2 months later, it's like all that was happening, and part of American history kind of ties into some era of my childhood in a weird way.
Oh man, the spiky mullet, man. I gotta see a picture of the spiky mullet.
Love it. And then I think and then you went into, because even after acting for a while, I mean, you got involved with Awesomeness TV and YouTube. And would you say that was kind of where you were transitioning more into being a director and a producer?
It's interesting. I think yeah, we did that show Side Effects on Awesomeness TV with Meg DeLacy and Chester C. And I had a great time on that show. I was a series regular on it. And so we I think we had like 3 seasons. And then shortly after that, I had the idea to do the documentary on my great grandfather on thin ice, and that was really my my first foray into the producing and the writing and the directing. And when I made that movie, I had, athletes like Evander Holyfield and Allison Felix and Apollo Ono and Greg Louganis and Robbie Rogers, Amy Mullins. And it just became a bigger project than I anticipated. And people really wanted to rally around the concept because it was about athletes speaking out against racism, homophobia, religious prejudice, all kinds of prejudices, and using their platform to better society and help the younger generations. And we were at a time where athletes were really wanting to speak out and having so much to say. And our movie just kind of became part of that movement. And we're extremely proud that it did because we hope and think that maybe it helped some kids out there be more comfortable with who they are in the sporting realm and just in life and their careers in general. So extremely proud of that movie. And again, it was an ode to my great grandfather. So cheers to you, Jack Brooks, my great grandfather who passed when he was 100. He lived till he was almost 100 years old, and so I got to know him really, really well. And so yeah, that movie was my first kind of foray into producing, and it was yeah, I guess it was a few years after Side Effects wrapped.
That's incredible. I know, and so moving. I'm really glad you had that with your grandfather. It's a very special bond, and we're able to tell his story. Another thing I wanted to mention too is like around this time with Awesomeness TV and YouTube, I just noticed there was this big shift in the
Yeah,
industry. And so, like I mentioned, I had done some acting, but I went to college for communication studies, and I was really fascinated by broadcast television growing up. And then I actually started working at WME right out of college.
oh,
So
cool.
so that really prepped me for a lot. And I was in the voiceover department. So I got to meet, there were a lot of people that, whose work I admired who had been on shows. So I felt like that's really where I was understanding the business side. And then I think where we kind of paralleled was it was at a time when, social media was taking off. You had these companies like Awesomeness TV and YouTube, all
Yeah,
these platforms are making it I guess more accessible for us to really get because and then so much change where it was people talk about how it was years ago where oh you're just an actor, you're just a director, you're just and it just seems like
sure.
everyone does everything now. I mean, for you instance, you're a musician, you act, you produce, and I feel like our generation, so many of those aspects were just always in us. Like we weren't just doing one thing. We were like taking our parents' video cameras, but now the kids today they have it all on their phones and they can
Yeah,
do what they want. But yeah, we were like, writing stuff and being the producer and director when we were making films when we were kids.
yeah,
And so I feel like the industry, what became accessible as far as Awesomeness TV, YouTube. I mean, because that's, when I at WME for a while, I was working with my cousin had done a movie with Joan Jett, The Runaways, the Kristen Stewart one.
yeah.
And then,
Oh,
one of
cool.
the agents that was putting that together ended up repping me for a while. And then I did Jack and Cocaine and Undateable John with Joan's Company with Shannon Doherty. So I felt like that was around the same time when I looked at, what the stuff that you had done. It was like that's where our lives paralleled, and then that got me more into the creative aspect. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to like share those journeys with each other.
It's totally interesting to and you have such a an awesome past and career and just to hear how you started at WME and yeah, I mean it's super cool. But I agree that during that time, yeah, that's just when I think like that whole YouTube thing started to percolate. And Awesomeness TV was one of the first companies that really started to make TV shows on YouTube. So that was like a new movement, and social media was at new heights at that point, and it was just starting to really YouTube. Now you look at it, and you've got all kinds of content on YouTube, and you can have movies on YouTube, short films, TV show, all kinds of content, and really get your brand or your project out there. And Awesomeness TV, kudos to them. I feel like they were one of the first companies to really do that. So yeah, so I think you're 100% right. I feel like our generation we're used to kind of wearing different hats. I wouldn't be able to kind of just stay in one lane. It's just my personality. I like to kind of wear different hats, and I have many passions, and I'm not just gonna say, oh, this is the only thing that I want to do. And I've seen that in my past, and tell me if you agree with your career, but anytime I was like, no, I'm feeling this. I want to take this leap and I want to do this, even though it's different than what I've been doing. I've taken that leap and it led me somewhere. I always want to, give something a go if I'm passionate about it. But yeah, I mean, we started Price Productions just after On Thin Ice was made. And now we make about 5 to 6 movies per year that we produce. And we're really, proud of what we built from that one movie that was just, a positive message. We try to stay consistent with that message with our other films. I mean, yeah, we've had just bang bang fun action movies that people can go to the theater or watch on at home and escape. And we pride ourselves on trying to do that as well. But we also look for projects when we're coming on board that have something special and have a positive message and have something that might help some people, an underlying message that kind of sets it apart. So we've stayed consistent with that on thin ice message throughout all of our content so far.
I love it. And no, and also I see your posters in the back, and I am a fan of your movie Bandit.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
when that came out, no, we were talking. Alan Unger was on the show, the
Yeah, yeah,
director, and no, I've Swen Temmel's a good buddy of mine. Got, I mean, I remember just back in the day, we would just joke about how we were just meeting up, having burgers, talking about stuff, and then it was just
yeah.
10 years later to see where we both ended up. And Olivia Diabo was fantastic in it, Chiara D'Ambrosio. So it's so cool, and it was just such a great story. Well, it's based on a true story, and I like stuff that takes, especially now because everything's so high tech, you can almost solve any problem with a cell phone and so
Yeah.
I like when you have like kind of a good crime thriller from that era. And after speaking with Alan, we both had a lot of just similarities in the types of movies that we watched growing up. And I feel like even with our generation, the kinds of movies that we make, there is kind of a homage to the kinds of things that we grew up in. And even just having some of the actors that were times come full circle, like, wow, I can't believe I'm getting to work with some of my heroes.
That's so cool that you interviewed Alan. I actually didn't know that. He's a really good friend, and I saw him last week.
Yeah.
And he's directing a new movie of ours that we're launching at AFM, and super excited about. Can't say that much about it, but we have a completely stellar cast on it, and we're so excited to announce it to the world. But yeah, he's a great guy, and I'm glad you guys chatted. Casino and Goodfellas were like around the time that I was growing up, and A Bronx Tale certainly was, and all those movies I would watch with my grandfather, and we still do today. When my grandfather and I get together, we'll watch all of those gangster movies, just like on repeat. Like, what are we watching today? All right, Bronx Tale. What are we watching tomorrow? American Gangster. What do we want? Those movies and those actors, and also the musicians from back in the day when you're growing up. To your point, I feel like they stay with you. They're a part of you, and a part of your childhood.
You were talking about the gangster movies because we had a similar childhood in that regard and I talked to Alan about this too. I remember like because I was always, like I said, Back to the Future, and a lot of those movies were like the stuff that I grew up watching. And then when I was like really getting into film, because I remember it was a thing. Like I was in elementary school, and for some reason it was like everyone was like, oh, we're gonna let our kids see Pulp Fiction. It was like everyone in my grade was like, because it was like just this important movie that everyone
Yeah,
needed to see. And I remember like watching it with my mom, and then it was around that time I was like, then we were watching like The Godfather, obviously Goodfellas and
right.
Casino. And like two of my, and I talked with Alan about this too, where I just remember like when I was really starting to understand what movie stars and what films were, I just remembered posters of Heat were all over, like everywhere we drove, there was a
Oh,
billboard for the movie Heat and
love. I
Casino.
love Heat. I love Heat.
Classic.
Love
Yeah.
that movie. Absolutely love it.
And I talked to Swan about this. It was a big thing about how that was like the movie where, because of course everyone knows Pacino and De Niro were in The Godfather too, but at different points in time. And now
Right.
we listen to these interviews. They were both, I think, considered for Michael Corleone at one point. That's what I love. Is like, I mean, we could sit here and talk about all the movies that inspired us. I know we have similar
Yep.
tastes. And I mean, even just to your point too, you do have a new movie with Harvey Keitel coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, working with Harvey, super cool. Watching him in his early work with Robert De Niro and everything. And Yeah, that movie is supposed to be coming out within the next few months, so we're super stoked about it. Called Hellfire. Actually, I have two with Harvey. One called Hellfire with Stephen Lang, Harvey Keitel, and Dolph Lundgren, and that's a lot of fun. It's an action movie, and then we have another one with him, and Rita Moreno and Udo Kier. That one's called Theirs. And that's a super fun psychological thriller that a friend of mine, Ron Pablo Reynoso, wrote. And shout out to him. He did a great job on that. So yeah, we've got two with Harvey.
And I also see your other poster in the back. That is Murder at Hollow Creek. You got Jason Patric, Mickey Rourke, Penelope M. Miller, and Casper Van Dien.
That came out this year. That one was so much fun. We really had a good time on that, and I wrote it, I produced it, and brought on a good friend of mine, David Lipper, to direct and produce with me, and he was fantastic.
The interviews like these are my favorite because it's like I could tell, we have a lot in common. We have like the same passion and
Yeah,
energy. I mean, nothing gets my day going more than having a conversation like this with you. And you also worked with two other of my good friends, as we mentioned earlier, Isabella and Elizabeth
Elizabeth.
Craig Thomas. You've done a couple things with them, including Hunt Club.
Yeah, first of all, I can't say enough good things about those two. They're just spectacular, and the energy and the positivity and just that's the energy that you want on sets. So I really enjoy working with them.
Really, this has made my morning having this conversation with you. Is there anything else that you would like to share with your audience or anything you'd like to let us know what you got coming up?
Absolutely. Look out for Cowboy Junkies. Title could be changing, but definitely check out on my Instagram. My handle is at Keli Price, Keli Price, and you can check us out on Instagram at our company at Price Productions Ltd on Instagram, and check out our website, priceproductionsltd.com. And look for all the latest news. But Cowboy Junkies is about to be released to the world and announced to the world, and we're excited for people to go and check that out. But we've also got several projects that are slated to come out this year and next year, like Mafia Wars with Tom Welling and Cam Gigande, and Hellfire with Harvey Keitel, Stephen Lang, and Dolph Lundgren, and Murder at Hollow Creek. Like I said, with Jack Kessie and Jason Patric is out right now for people to see. And we just shot Tender. Super stoked about that movie. It was so much fun to shoot. David Koechner was fantastic in it. It's a fun little thriller. And so that's going to be coming out in 2025 as well. So yeah, all these movies, we hope people go check them out and follow us on the socials.
You got it, my brother. Kelly, such a pleasure having you on the show. Anytime you want to just chat and talk about films, hit me up, brother. All the best to you and your success. We'll catch you soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Cash. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.